What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Know that everything is going to be okay.
I was fearless. When things got a little too dangerous, something in my gut told me, you need to leave. I started earning money cropping tobacco.
I didn't know too much about stocks and stuff.
Back in the 80s and 90s, it was a little different. Money was coming in a little different.
Money's a spirit.
Right.
Money needs to move around freely to do good.
Ladies, we are here again.
I know.
And let's welcome the viewers to the Three Ladies podcast.
Hey.
You can call us peanut butter, jelly, and jam.
That's it.
Yeah, like that or no?
Who's jelly and who's jam?
Right? FC, she's like, I'm not with that.
I know there's a lot of jelly around, but
I don't know if I jam.
Can I live, ladies?
Okay, we'll be
So-
peanut butter, jelly, and jam.
Thank you. Today, the topic is about, you know what? I was going to say, going back to that fork in the road. You go back. The question is, maybe I should start with that.
right.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Ooh.
But when I think back, I'm like, you know what? The things that I went through made me who I am today. So would I change what I went through?
I don't know.
That's the question.
Right.
Let's
Would you
start with you, Yo-Yo.
change?
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Oh, I would have given a lot.
You would.
And I would. And perhaps when I would say when I was younger, I worried a lot. I was really fearful. And if I could go back and give my 20-year-old self advice, just a general advice without getting too specifically, it would be to know that everything is going to be okay. And to not worry about the present or even the past, just live every day. And, don't think about the future. I think that was my main thing, was worrying about where certain things were going to be. So that would be general advice I would give myself. Don't worry too much.
Don't worry too much.
Well, see, I think for me, I was fearless in my
Join the
20s. Exactly. And so do I think anything that I would tell my 20-year-old self now?
Right.
I wouldn't change what happened because I do believe, like you said, what you went through kind of makes you who you are
Shapes you,
today.
right?
And there is something really powerful about being a little fearless.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned as I got older to harness that energy. But when I was in my 20s, the fearlessness, I wish there was some way to have had balance.
Okay.
There was a gut instinct, which was thankfully, when things got a little too dangerous, something in my gut told me, you need to leave.
Is that New York? Did you grow up in?
Oh, no, I grew up in South Georgia.
Okay.
So things would happen. Let me tell you something, girl. There would be some craziness happening at some wild party out in the woods, and somebody would get a chainsaw out and something. And
not the
I'm being serious.
You see my eyes? She's like,
did not
the
expect
chainsaw.
They got the chainsaw out, and I'm like, I think it's time to go. Right?
Yeah. And then they pull the thing. Yes.
That's the time to
Those
go.
are the stories we heard about on the news when we were in New York. Like, what's going on down there?
Yeah, exactly.
South Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about financially, ladies? Like, what would you do?
Oh, my
something
God.
different?
Yes.
Yes.
Jesus.
Where would you start, Yo-Yo?
So I'm back to fear.
Back to
Okay.
fear.
I've always, hoarded. When I was younger, I hoarded money.
Wow.
Like, I just wanted to see that money in the bank, and I was afraid to spend it. So I was afraid because and it probably goes back to, my parents were divorced, and, my mom, I saw her work so hard to take care of us. And part of it was, I wanted to make sure that we always had money to take care of ourselves, But then I think sometime in my youth, my mom saw that, and she used to always counsel me. And she said, money is a spirit.
Right.
Money needs to move around freely to do good. If you hoard it and just look at it, it doesn't serve any purpose. It doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit people around you. Not to say you should spend money freely, but it has to move around and do its job. And that's something that always stuck in my mind.
Wow. Yeah. I was on the other end. I spent money freely, didn't save anything. My mother taught me, if you want the red, get the red, the blue, and the yellow.
Wow.
Store, get all colors. My mother was, because she was so fabulous, and
yes.
she believed in it. And then I was the only girl.
Oh,
so she was like,
spoils you.
spoiled. So get whatever you want. And she spoiled my brothers too, but she didn't teach us to manage money. And then money was flowing in.
Right.
I want to say back in the 80s and 90s, it was a
Right.
little different. The
Right.
money was coming
Right.
in a little different.
Right.
That don't sound right.
Well, she had
It
a
was
business,
legal,
so
but she was getting cash.
right,
so-
right, and that's easy to spend once you have it in your hand, cash.
Exactly.
You know,
so
as
we would
opposed to-
spend,
right.
and I didn't learn to save. I didn't learn to manage money.
Well, I started working from the age of so this is going to be surprising. So I started earning money cropping tobacco.
Okay.
So
Cropping tobacco.
Yep. So I would go out.
Like go in the fields.
Yes. Yes.
Talk to us.
So I would go
MC.
out in the fields and we would sucker the tobacco plants so they didn't flower, so they'd have bigger leaves. So I learned to sucker tobacco. I learned to string tobacco. I learned to pack tobacco, and you got paid by how much you got done. So it never was about that. So I did tobacco until I was of age.
Is that like a job posting? Like
No.
cutting tobacco?
No, it's
How did you farm? Like
No,
How
it's
did you
just
stumbled
that,
upon it?
Listen, I'm going to tell you, when you're in the deep South and there is nothing but farm kind of, it's farm
Right.
country. If there's jobs for people needing laborers during tobacco season, they say, "Who wants to come?" You show up at the crack of dawn,
Wow.
and this is some hard ass work.
No, I
I
believe
respect
you.
that.
I'm gonna tell you, that's
believe
some
you.
hard ass
Some
work.
people would
grinding
have
and
say,
hustling, right?
"Hey, I thought you was gonna say babysitting." She was like, "No, I used to do tobacco."
We would go out and do tobacco, and you got either paid by how many rows you did, or how many strings of things you did, or how many pounds of tobacco you packed. And so I did that until I was of age, and then I worked in my grandfather's printing company
Wait. You said of age, so that means you were working
before 14. Yeah.
in the field.
In the fields, yeah. It was very common.
These kids don't even want to work.
I'm
today.
telling you, these kids are watching. These parents are watching. Send this clip to the kids. Them sitting in their house eating all your food.
I'm going to tell you something. When you work in the field, you have a new respect for people who are farmers, who are out
It's an
there.
arduous job.
It's awful. The bugs, the smells.
The heat.
Yeah, that too.
And you're out there for hours.
Yes,
right?
it's not easy work. And you are really going because you know that you're going to get paid by how much you get done, not by the hour.
commission.
It's how much you get done. If you got 10 rows done, you got this much money. You got this thing strong, you got that much money. So if you could do it faster, more efficient, you got more money.
Right.
Okay.
And people really kind of looked at you. So when I came to New York, I sold newspapers on the street.
Wow.
And let me tell you something. I went toe to toe with some of those girls from
Wow.
the Bronx.
'Cause you knew
They
how
were
to
like,
hustle.
yes.
Yes.
They were like,
Bronx.
where did you learn how to do this? I said,
Georgia.
crop and fields, girl.
Georgia.
So
That's where my
I
dad
did
is
that too.
from.
But the thing is that you don't really realize that once you get the cash in your hand, you're always thinking about what do I need next.
Right.
It
Yeah.
wasn't
And that's
about
what it is.
planning or how to figure things out, how to put some away to have emergencies, so I wish there was some sense of something in school that helps you
Taught
understand.
you financial
Right.
literacy. And
Yeah,
Still to
because
this day,
Yeah.
they
It's
don't-
hard to understand.
Yeah,
Right, it's
absolutely. Yes. So even then in my 20s, I didn't know too much about stocks and stuff. I thought you
Who
you
knew what
lose
that
your,
was?
lose your money. But if it was in the bank and I can go to the bank and see the numbers there, like, okay, I know I got 5,000. Oh, today I'm gonna get 6,000.
But that's
this is-
still responsible that you did that. I always
Yeah.
thought you was very conservative.
I was, which now it's funny because now I'm not so much conservative because I see the power money can do. Especially when
Gotta
it
make
works
it
for
work for you, right?
Especially when it works for
There
you.
you go.
And
Yes.
see, now I'm more like your mother. I believe that money is a spirit too.
Yes.
And so while I'm mindful, I still surrender that I know money's coming. And so if something shows up that says you need to give the money, I do it.
Right.
And even though it's may seem unreasonable to
Right.
that kind of like
Right.
sensible person,
Right.
I go ahead and do it.
that
Although
makes sense.
I just
Yes.
finished working on my taxes, to be honest with you, and so I was telling Yo-Yo earlier, it was
Right.
like, okay, that was humbling.
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you
Like
see
that,
how
you
much you
fall in.
spend on food and necessities, it's
Right.
like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Speaking
Budget.
of food, let's change it up a little. What about as far as health and well-being
Oh,
in your
God.
20s? How?
I think for me, for health and well-being, you know, I was someone who struggled with health and well-being from a very young age. And so, you know, I had an eating disorder. I needed therapy early. I think that's part of it. I needed therapy earlier. I think that some of the things I see going on now with our culture and our early younger people, I'm very lucky I didn't end up, you know, overdosing somewhere like what happens today. You know, one person in every 6 seconds overdoses from fentanyl. And what's happening now with fentanyl, and I think that's one of the things, because I think I walk so closely on the edge sometimes. I think that I really understand that when you're depressed and you're anxious, you don't know where to turn, and it's not, it's really unclear. Somebody like, if I think about some of the parties that I went to, you know, if somebody hands you a pill and you just take it.
Yeah.
You just take it.
Yeah, when you're
Out there
depressed,
having fun.
you're so
Oh, depressed.
You're so you want to experience something other than what you're experiencing right now.
Looking for.
And so now what's happening, exactly, what's happening is now they've got, you know, cocaine and methamphetamine laced with fentanyl.
Right.
So people will be thinking they're taking an upper, but they're really taking a deadly dose that will kill them.
What about what they were putting in the weed? Wasn't it the potpourri?
Yes, something toxic, yes.
Yeah, giving kids potpourri to
So
smoke.
that to me, I think if I had something to tell my 20-year-old self and other people who are in that, is that, you know, ask for help. You know, ask anybody, a teacher, a person who feels safe, you know, because now they have all kinds of things like better health and online health components. But this is one of the biggest problems right now in our country,
It's really scary.
is that people are uncomfortable with where they are right now. And I think that's what I relate to. I know how uncomfortable I was
Right.
as a young person. And as time, it didn't take me until I was like 35 to get into therapy.
So you would say find someone that you can confide in.
Yes,
And
trust.
help you along the way.
You know,
very
don't be
important.
afraid to say, hey, I'm suffering. I need
I need help.
I need help. I need some
Yes.
guidance, or I don't
Yes.
know how to handle how anxious I
Yes.
feel, or something.
Yes.
What
I
about
think
you,
that.
Yo-Yo?
You know,
Oh, I'm right there with Mary. I didn't take health and well-being that seriously when I was in my 20s. I did suffer. I know I am an emotional eater. You know, when something is stressing me out or something is worrying me, I look for comfort food. And I think through my 20s, I didn't prioritize exercising. I thought exercising.
God.
You know, you see people exercising. It's like, who would want to wake up at 5 in the morning and go running?
doing
I'm like,
that?
I said, what drugs are they on? You know, and that was the myopic thinking of me. You know, not realizing that working out and taking care of yourself is the best love you can give to yourself.
Of course.
You know, and I think in my 20s, it was more of, not that I didn't love myself. I don't think I loved myself as much because I didn't prioritize or I didn't take into consideration certain things that would make me better. And if I were to give my advice to myself today, it would definitely get into a health regimen. Calories count. You know, I used to think that, oh, if it don't make me full, it don't count. That's how I used to think of calories.
Oh,
Man, that's how.
I wish that was true.
I was like, I just ate a Snickers bar. That don't count because it didn't make me full.
so hungry, right?
Right. Or I ate at 5 or 6 in the morning and it's now 10 o'clock at night. Oh, that was 6 in the morning. That don't count.
Right.
But it's like numbers don't lie. Them calories add up and they will go to the waist.
Right.
And they will give you a different position.
And like you said, emotional eating is serious.
It's very serious. And
I didn't
realized
realize that until COVID happened. But
Oh, everybody, that whole well-being.
Right.
And I'll piggyback with Mary about therapy. I think back then, I used to think therapy was people who got major problems. But I think, especially coming out of COVID, I saw a lot at work with people passing away and dying, and that has an emotional trigger on you, even if
does.
you don't believe it.
Right.
You know, you're very anxious, you're scared. You turn on the news and you hear all this doom and gloom, and you get very scared.
stay away from
so
the news.
since COVID, I haven't watched the news like I used to.
Oh, I don't either.
Yeah, because I feel as though I don't want that negativity, not negativity, but all that to consume me, because then I get worried and anxious, especially the stuff that's going on in the world. You get worried, like, are we going to war? And it's just a lot going on. So giving myself grace and to understand that the best love you can give to yourself is taking care of yourself.
That's important.
And what
I
about
think
you?
For me, I would tell my 20-year-old self, well, like you said, I kind of hung out, partied.
Yeah.
I stayed away from drugs because my dad was on drugs, and I saw firsthand what it did, and it shook me. So I was scared of drugs. If try this, I'm not trying that. Right. I know what it's gonna do. But I would say, be careful of the tribe that you hang out with. Because I chose all of the wrong boyfriends.
Oh.
Okay.
And thank God, God was with me. There were situations where I know it was only God that got me out of it.
Right.
So I would say, be careful of the friends that you hang out with.
Yes.
Stay away from drugs. But that comes to mind. And because I have 20-year-old kids,
Right.
that is what I tell them.
Right. Stay away from drugs.
Stay away from
Sometimes
drugs.
it's hard.
Be careful of your tribe.
I think it's hard to understand how to attract a group of people who are supportive of you in your 20s. I know for me, I was a performer, and so there was an attitude around performing that was very free-spirited, and it kind of gave permission for everyone to experiment on everything. And and that's again, there's this balance, I think, that is lacking. Although I was saying to Yo-Yo earlier, as a performer, you learn to be very disciplined. That you needed to show up.
Okay.
That people counted on you. The show couldn't go on without everybody.
Right.
And so, there was this sense of discipline. But then when the show was over, oh my gosh, it was like,
Cut loose.
unbelievable.
That song. I'm the cut loose.
No, it was it was not that.
You
was
dated your age.
Listen, it was like rock out the blenders and get some margaritas going,
busy,
and
right?
there was a lot of that too.
I know about that. I had a close friend, ex-boyfriend. He had his own club.
Wow.
So can you imagine?
No.
All night.
Yeah.
We was in the club cleaning it up, like.
Well, that was so
spent
crazy,
a lot of time.
right? You would be up all night and then go to school at 8 a.m.
Right. How did that happen?
I don't know.
Yeah, see, in my 20s, I didn't club around. Like you said, I was very conservative.
Right.
Now.
I always looked at Yo-Yo as like the good girl, and I'm like, dang, I'm like wild and crazy. And I would see her like, she's good. Everything's good about her. But you were like the conservative friend.
Very conservative, always in the house, and didn't have much friends, I must say, growing up. I was always to myself and did things on my own. Even though I have a sister, she would always go out. I used to tell her, getting dressed up, she said, you want to go? I'm like, no.
She be the one hanging out with us.
Yes,
She was younger than us. I'm like, you're really not supposed to be here.
That's unbelible because
Yes,
now it's kind
younger
of switched.
sister was hanging
Now
out.
it's kind of switched. Now she can't keep up. I was like, you want to go out? She said, girl, I want to sleep.
Isn't that
Yes.
No, it's
Yes.
totally
But that's what happens. You burn out.
Yeah.
Like, that's the same thing when people like go out. I'm like, go out. No, I want to be in bed.
No,
So it does flip.
Yes,
It
yes,
does.
yes,
it
yes.
does.
But so key takeaways, ladies. What
What about careers?
careers? Let's talk about it. Let's get into
When you were
it.
in your 20s, what were you thinking about as a career?
I wanted to do everything. I still have that spirit. Like I went into the military.
Oh, wow.
Cosmetology license.
You went into the military?
I wanted to be a police officer.
Oh, my
But
God.
my mother instilled in me, whatever you want to do, you can do. So
Wow.
try
Yes.
it. Do
Yes.
it.
Wow.
As long as
You
it's
only live
positive.
once.
My grandmother would say, you start things and never finish.
Yeah.
I'm like, just give me time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I do like that. Telling my 20s self,
Try different
try
things.
it.
Yes.
Try different paths so you'll know what you like.
That's what I try to tell my son now because I think he's struggling to figure out what he wants to do. And I said that it's okay not to know, but you have to do something.
You got to try
You
something.
have to try something. Try something and say, you know what, I've tried it, it's not for me.
Right.
And for myself in my 20s, again, it was that thing, that mindset of fear. Like I always wanted a job that was secure. Even though in the back of my head, I knew since I was 14 years old, I wanted to be a writer. But then back then, it was like writers, you didn't see them flourishing like they are now with social
Yeah,
media.
that's true.
Right.
So it was like, how do you get a job? Then I went into the route of saying, well, let me look for a secure job, a government job where I can
Right.
get a pension and stuff of that nature. And it was not taking enough chances. So I would definitely take
yourself.
more chances
Okay.
in my 20s.
And I think for me, well, I knew I wanted to perform. I still do. There's still a big performing spirit in me. And I was driven. I was driven to be a singer. I was doing things. And then all of a sudden, I was offered a big opportunity, went there, and became afraid out of my mind. Because it was so different. So I went from a little teeny town to live in Houston, Texas, in a huge company. And I was 19 when they chose me, and then I went there when I was 20, and I was scared out of my mind. I lasted about 5 months.
Oh, wow.
And then I just said, I don't think I'm ready.
You were
went
still
back home?
scared after 5 months?
Yes, it was. You can't imagine. So, you go from something very safe, and then all of a sudden you go into a system where you aren't knowing at all what's going on. They would hand me the schedule that I would have to be looking at for my week. And figure out where I had to be, what I had to learn, who I'd have to meet with, and it was very
It was
intimidating.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Well, I'd never prepared for this. It was intimidating. I had to be on point, very competitive.
Oh, wow.
There was no friend around you. Everyone is competitive.
That is a lot to deal with at a
And
young
so
age.
you're there and you're like, I'm not ready for this. And that's all I felt. And unfortunately, my family didn't know how to support me.
Right.
And so here you have this opportunity. You're telling your family you're scared out of your mind.
Right.
And they're like,
And they're like, well, then come home.
Right.
Why wouldn't you say
They wanna
that
make
to
you
your
safe.
child?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wasn't prepared, and it frightened me. Which something. I look back now, I understand that happened perfectly.
Right.
okay.
But at the point, I recognize now that if I'm offered a big opportunity, I've been taking the time to prepare for it all along.
So would you have told your 26-year-old, stay where you at? It's gonna work out. You would have said stay.
Yeah.
You would have had the more courage to stay.
I would have had more courage to stay if I had some small tools to recognize this discomfort, this horrible, awful situation.
Right.
Just go with it. Just because any time that we're going big, we're going to suffer.
Right.
It comes with
fear.
suffering.
It comes with fear too.
Exactly.
Right.
So you just have to embrace it
Embrace it and still do
Part of
it.
the game.
and
Yes.
still do it. And so, the biggest message is that if you're going big, you're going to be afraid.
Prepare for those obstacles.
Well, you're
Prepare
just going to be uncomfortable,
right?
You're going to be afraid. You're going to be. You're not going to be sure of yourself. You're going to show up and do the best.
And you
but,
may not get support either.
exactly. But something. Keep the big idea and what
of-
you desire in front of you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I just drew a blank.
About careers.
I'm thinking about.
Well, something because
key
you did so
takeaways.
many things.
I did. I kind of bounced around, but I don't.
How did you end up
regret
in
that.
nursing?
How did I end up in nursing? My daughter was born premature, and there was a nurse that was helping me take care of her. And so it kind of opened that interest up on how to take care of my baby. And I asked the nurse, I said, what exactly, where did you go to school? I started questioning her. And that's where the interest came in.
Oh,
And it just kind of blossomed from there.
But you disciplined yourself and went through the whole process.
let me tell
Oh
you.
my God. That was a whole, let me tell you, because honestly, I am a C student.
What does that mean?
That means I'm barely making it. If 65 is passing, I'm your 67 girl.
Really?
Yes. And I don't know if it's because of my focus, but I struggled to get through nursing school.
Wow.
Struggled. But I'm proud of myself.
Yes,
and you
you
know
did.
what I did?
What?
I would put on a stethoscope and walk around as if I was already a nurse.
Wow.
Manifesting it.
Let me tell you,
I
that's
remember those days. I would just put the stethoscope on and just walk around.
And
And
look at that full circle.
hey,
Ooh,
because
so
that
you know, at graduation, I was like, whoa, I did it.
that's a big accomplishment.
That is.
It really is.
That is.
And
to
I
be proud
stuck
of-
it out. My
Yes.
grandmother would be so proud of me.
Yes.
I stuck it out.
That's
She was
awesome.
like, you start, but you don't finish, Keisha.
Well, I don't think
So what
that's-
about relationships? What would we tell our 20-year-old self about relationships? Because I'm thinking about in my 20s again. Not that I was fearful of relationships. I think I stayed too long in relationships. I think in your 20s, you should be, and I tell my son this down. I said, I don't want to see anything about I'm getting married or nothing because you need to travel. You need to learn about yourself. You can have relationships, of course, but I won't say don't be a player, but
that's a balance.
right. You should experience different relationships. You know,
But why do you say you stayed too long? Like you
because
was
I stayed like I had.
loyalty and-
That was the thing. I was loyal to a fault. I used to think like boyfriends I was treating boyfriends like husbands.
Oh.
That was the problem. I had relationships with like 5 years.
sticking it
Yeah,
out.
I was sticking it out, and I was like, "Girl, you need to get yourself." I mean, and that's because I've always been a romantic at heart. I've always been living the concept of love, and if you love somebody, this is what you do to show them you love them. But in
Wow.
your 20s, it's all about learning about yourself too. And I
Right.
think I gave too much of myself in those relationships that I didn't spend enough time with myself. So then towards my 30s, even in my marriage and having my children, little by little, it started to unravel and say, you know what, I need to start learning, not forgetting about me.
Okay,
Yeah.
And I remember a story my mom told me, and I bring back to her, God bless her, because she's always
She
giving
gives
me
the
advice.
best advice.
Yes. And I remember one time my husband had an event, and I was running around getting in a suit. I was making sure he was coordinating and stuff like that. And I was so impressed with all the stuff that I bought. And I went and showed my mom. I said, "Oh, look what I got for Kwaku for this anniversary dinner." And she's like, "Oh, that's nice. But what are you wearing?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't get a chance to buy anything for myself. I'm gonna wear something in the closet." And then I remember she took my hand, sat me down, closed the door, and she said, "Let me tell you something. And in case I missed this boat with you, that you are number one. And that men can wear the same suit, the same black suit every single day.
That's right.
But you have to come out looking like the diamond.
Hello.
You have to shine bright. Because what they're going to say is that, oh, look at this man's wife. She always looks so plain and homely and domesticated.
Right.
And it stuck to my head to this day.
Wow.
And that was what, if anything, that was the transformation.
truth.
That was the transformation because I was so busy and consumed. Now, this is a grown man who could honestly just go and buy his stuff for
Right, right.
himself.
Yeah.
But I just put myself last, and I did all this for this person. Not to say that you shouldn't show love to your person, but then where did I fit myself in? I didn't fit myself in.
Right.
I was like, oh, I was just waiting in the closet. And the way she took my hand is like, listen, no, you don't do that.
Right. When you standing next to him, you're gonna shine.
Exactly. You have
right?
to shine and be like, oh, yes. I can
And
see
they
why.
want that too, though.
Oh,
The man, he
definitely.
wants to stand there and say,
Right.
"Yeah, look at
Yes.
my wife."
Yes.
Yes.
Not looking like, I'm the help.
No.
Like, who's this? The house schoolgirl? The
Right.
one that cleans the bathroom?
No,
right.
we're
The
not doing
janitor?
that. We're
Right.
not doing that.
Yeah.
So, again, yes, making sure I show up. And, honey, like I said,
Oh, you shows up now, honey.
Oh,
Yeah, baby.
yes. I make
Let's
sure.
get it
You know something? I think that's I think I struggle.
Yes.
Because first of all, I think most men were intimidated to date me. Here I am singing, performing,
You were talented.
and doing things, and the type of men in the South are like, I don't know about that.
That was too much for them.
Yeah. So the first boyfriend I had, I asked him out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I told him, if you'll shave off those ugly beard, I'll take you out for a steak dinner.
Wow. You was aggressive.
Love you.
Well, I mean, hey, if
Right.
you're not getting dates, you might as well
I'll go get you
make
one,
a
right?
date.
Right.
But, I realized that I'm just too, I don't know. When I moved to New York finally, I was like, oh, thank God I finally arrived where people are like me. I totally was not someone.
Found your space.
Well, yeah, because, my first husband was Afro-Cuban. And, I love the ethnicity. I love the complexity. The first time we dated and I went to meet his mother, who was a Santeria priestess.
Oh.
And she had, the gifts to the spirits. And then the hat with the cigar in the corner. I was fascinated.
Wow.
I found it extremely fascinating, and it was like speaking to my spirit.
Right.
And then when my husband passed away, I stopped dating for a while, and then I met now this gentleman who's from Gabon.
Right.
And again, the wonderful culture and the richness just spoke to my spirit.
Right.
Wow.
So I think the types of people when I was growing up, I think if I had to tell my younger self about relationships, it would be, don't worry. It's okay. That person who's for you is coming.
Oh, absolutely.
Be patient.
Right.
I wish I knew that.
Don't be frustrated.
Yes.
But it's difficult when you're young because you see other people.
Especially
you know
the
what?
message for women, because
Right.
we are taught that we have to get married and have a
Yes.
family at a
Oh,
young
yeah.
age.
Right.
Whereas it's funny because I'm not telling my boys that.
No, you see the
Yeah,
difference?
yes.
And I think with me, because I didn't have my dad around, I was attracted to the bad boy, the guy who's going to take care of me, and he was a boss and everything wrong, the street guy.
Right.
And so I always chose that guy.
Wow.
So I don't know. I would tell my younger self, don't go for the bad boy because it wasn't good.
Yeah.
It didn't work out good. But ladies, takeaways.
Ooh. General advice for 20-year-old self.
Wow.
I would definitely say that you have this one life. Don't live in fear. Try to, if anything, be your authentic self. And even if you don't know what it is at that age, try different things. That will make you know yourself more. When you go through things, challenges, trials, even joys, you get to learn so much more about yourself. And now in my ripe old or young age, I would say, ripe old young age, I would say I am thankful because it has made me who I am today.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally agree. What about you, MC?
I think if I had my 20, I would say look at someone you would aspire to be like. Like if you saw someone, I don't know, in the news or in the theater, in the world of science, because I have found myself all of a sudden in science. And I had a science vein in who I was when I was a kid, but I never nurtured it.
Wow.
And so, I had a chemistry set when I was like 12 years old.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, but I never did anything.
Right.
But here I am now doing something in science.
Comes full circle.
Exactly. And so I think that if you see someone who you could aspire to emulate, and that you would think, what would I be doing if I were them at this age? Like if I were Oprah, or if I were Gail, or if I were Rihanna, or Beyonce. What would I be doing to aspire to be that big in my life, whatever it is?
Yeah.
Right.
And could I emulate that?
Right. Commit to something. That's
Yes.
what comes
Yeah.
to mind. Commit to something. Sacrifices are going to be made if you commit to something. But and I would say be kind to yourself.
Oh,
Allow yourself to make
Yes.
mistakes.
Yes.
Be kind. And
Have the
everything
voice.
that's happening today is going to work out for tomorrow. So,
Yes. Yes.
well, it also, I think for me, I love thinking about how I wouldn't change a thing that happened to me.
I wouldn't either.
And that you have to recognize that the path you're on is your path.
That's right.
Yes.
It's yours.
Absolutely.
So embrace it. Embrace those obstacles.
Yep.
Learn the lessons that you're supposed to learn.
That's
right?
it.
And if you really want to leave, you leave.
That's it.
What are you going to do?
That's
Yeah.
right. So let's wrap this up, ladies.
Okay,
This
so
was good.
next it brought me back to some memories I
Some
haven't had
sentiments,
in a long
exactly.
time.
Some
Yeah,
sentiments I'm thinking
thank
about
you.
myself
Yep.
too.
This
Yeah,
was good.
Yes.
awesome. Well, next time, right?
Next time.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Oh, yeah.
Share.
Like.
Comment.
Hit that little black button. Thank you.
Bye.